Howdy, everyone. Tad Stevens on the Micro Success Secrets podcast, where we focus on business psychology and marketing and how you can use that in your business daily and long term. Today, I am talking with Kirk, who has been helping companies and the people within them understand, codify, and communicate their unique value to others for nearly a quarter of a century. He is the president of Your Brand Marketing, an employee engagement consultancy, author of Powerful Personal Brands, a hands-on guide to understanding yours, and the host of Iheart and Spotify syndicated Your Living Brand Live show with over 150 episodes. Ben believes if companies understand, live, and build cultures around their purpose, employees will engage, stay, and want to grow with the company. This takes great leadership, communication, and awareness of the brand. Ben, how you doing? And let me know anything I might have missed.
You know what, Ted? You do absolutely phenomenal work. The one thing you forgot is my new book. Came out at the beginning of September. It's called "Leading Beyond a Crisis: A Conversation About What's Next." But we can get into that. We can ignore it. I can give people an offer for that at the end of the show. But you drive, I'll follow. I'm at your mercy.
Super. Well, we'll definitely put a link for the book in the show notes and in the description for anywhere the podcast is posted. So do want to know that. Today, we're going to talk about things that you've been through in your journey and how that might apply and help listeners in their journey. So, and this is one of my favorite questions. It's me. But to start with, is there one business or life decision that you have made that if you could change it, you would change it? Or would you change it if you could? And if you would change it, what would it be? What would you change it to?
Yeah, this is a business decision that goes back almost 25 years ago. So it was pre 9/11, exactly when, I don't remember, but sometime in the late 90s, probably 97, 98 years old. And, like most of us, I was a lot younger at the time.
Always, yeah.
Yeah. The gray hair starting to show. I had a new client, and I'd spent a lot of time cultivating this new client. It took me 4-6 months to get this customer on board. And they could have been a $250,000, $500,000 a year client, and had the opportunity to be a really good long-term client. And they decided to give me a test job. And this was right at the time, and I was in the printing industry at the time, and we were doing a large print run for them, and they wanted to give me a test. And it was right when presses were going from having film and plates to direct to press. So it was a new technology. Being a kid of the digital age back then, I assumed I knew everything I needed to know. Be aware of the things you don't know. Let me preface the story that way. Well, there was a mistake on the press proof. We created a digital proof for them, and they took a look at it. They said, "Well, you know what? There's a spelling mistake on this. Could you get this fixed? No problem." And they said, "Well, and could you add the sentence in there? It'll flow better." I said, "Sure, no problem." So we made the changes. We sent them a new proof. I circled the area that of where the changes made. They signed off on it. And we printed 65,000. And I didn't notice it. The client didn't notice it. The pressman didn't notice it. The people that converted it didn't notice it. Nobody noticed that the document reflowed. So things that were supposed to be on page 6 ended up on page 7. And the document just didn't look right. The formatting was off. Everything was off because of adding. It might have been 5 words.
Yeah.
But because it looked right, at that particular point in time, my assumption is, okay, everything else is fine.
Everything else is right. Yeah.
Everything else should be fine because this is right, because this is the only thing we changed. Well, the client comes up to me and goes, "Well, what do we do?" I said, "Well, you signed off on it." And being young and being of the attitude that, "No, Mr. Client, the ultimate responsibility is yours because you signed off on it."
The proof.
I dug in my heels. Was it 50% my fault? Should I have checked it? Should my pre-press caught it? Should my pressman have caught it? Should, the people who
Yeah.
did the conversion should have been caught 6 different ways along the way. But my attitude was the client signed off on it. It was their responsibility. Well, they paid to have it reprinted. They paid their bill and never returned my phone call ever again.
Yeah.
And what I learned from that was there are wars and there are battles. And, we all need to sit there and say, in any situation, realistically, did I have some fault in this matter? And we need to give ourselves a really good shake, because 99 times out of 100, it's not usually one person's fault, or it's not usually one thing that causes a problem. It's usually a cascade. And if I had taken that approach, if I said that, it says, you know what? Yeah, the mistake happened. We're really sorry. How can we fix this together? What do you need to make this right? Let's work on this together. I'll give you a discount, blah, blah, whatever I need to do in order to make it right and help the customer out. 10, 15 years later, that customer could have easily been giving me $500,000 worth of business a year. And I could have recouped the $5,000 or $10,000 it would have cost me over that period of time, and then some. But because I dug in my heels, I never had the opportunity to be able to make things right. And that's probably my biggest mistake and the biggest lesson I've ever learned.
But it's a lesson. I mean, it's an expensive lesson, but
it's an expensive lesson. But you know what? It's something that has stayed with me the rest of my life, and I have never, ever made that mistake again.
All right. Well, in kind of that vein, is there anything in your business life or just your life that is a super positive decision that you've made, and it's one of those things that it just worked, and now everything that you look at is before that decision and after that decision? It's one of those kind of points. Do you have one of those that you could share?
Well, that's easy. 2007, I was working for a company, and there was 30 of us in the company, and the owner of the company is getting older. He's talking about retirement. We and I talked, and it was obvious he didn't want to sell the company to people inside the company. For whatever reason, he didn't. We tried to buy the company from him. We tried to make it work. It didn't want to do it. And I realized that I had 2 choices. I could either wait around for the lights to be turned out, or stick around and hope to God that I really liked the new owners, because he was going to sell. He was going to sell it.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do either. And I took a look and I said, "Is this the time?" And the answer was yes. And I talked to a couple customers, and I looked at a few things, and I said, "What if I was able to take care of you in another fashion?" They said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Stay tuned, but are you in?" They said, "Absolutely." And I walked into the office on January 3rd, 2008, and said, "You know what? It's been a wonderful 10 years. Thank you very much. But it's time that I went out on my own." And I sent out an email that said, "Same great service, brand new name." And 90% of my customers followed me. And we're talking January 2008, right, in the smack of the recession. And because I had the support of my clients, because I had the relationships, because I had the trust that had built up with them over the last 10 years, government clients came with me, large industry clients came with me, large, significant clients came with me, and they realized that even if times were tough and they weren't going to be able to spend as much with me, I was going to help them maximize whatever budgets they had left. So that really was that turning point where I realized it was time to go out on my own. It was time to build my own shingle, my own brand, and move forward. And I think if, Greg had been talking about retirement and didn't want, and had wanted to sell the company to me, my life would be very different today.
Yeah. Okay. Super. Um, next, take a little different or a little bit of a detour or a different tangent here. Um, is there anything, and well, let me preface it by saying I believe that everybody gets stuck on something at some point, business
Absolutely.
wise, life wise.
Yeah.
My big one, and I always say this and just in every third podcast, my big one is writer's block.
Hmm.
I had horrible writer's block, but I figured out a way to work through it, to get myself through it. When you get stuck on something like writer's block or something big like a decision that you were just talking about, is there any tip, technique, method that you use to get yourself unstuck?
I'm lucky that I don't get writer's block. I consider myself blessed. I write a significant amount of material daily, weekly, monthly, and thank God that's not one of my weak points. But we all have them. You're absolutely right. Where I get stuck sometimes is understanding the dynamic change between traditional marketing, which has been my forte over the last 20, 25 years, and digital marketing, and how to proceed forward, and how to make that shift from the analog world and building trust into the digital world, and
Mm-hmm.
be able to make sure that, as where I can articulate face to face and eyeball to eyeball with people, I can do that the same way or in a significant way in a digital environment. And I get stuck in that, where I take a look at things and I go, okay, how do I move forward? How do I make sure I'm on the right platforms, that I'm posting the right material, that I'm communicating
Mm-hmm.
the right way. And sometimes it's going back and reflecting, and it's looking back at where I came from and where I am today, and taking the time to sit there and go, okay, what am I really trying to do? You know, and sometimes you just need to ask yourself that question. What am I truly trying to do? Who am
Mm-hmm.
I trying to influence? Why am I trying to influence them? Why would people care? And it's a lot of reflection to sit back and go, okay, you know, how do I get other people to understand that I'm valuable to them? And by asking myself those questions and really looking at how I'm communicating, and sit there going, would this resonate with other people? Or am I just speaking to make myself heard?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And or am I just adding noise to the universe? And by taking that time to reflect and really figure things out for myself, I find that my communication is better by not assuming I know, but rather, asking the hard questions and looking for the answers before I proceed. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, reflection. I ask this question a lot, and that is one of the responses I get that a lot of people use. So, uh, you're not alone there. I mean, it is very effective for many folks. So let me roll into the next one. Then is if you were starting from scratch,
Mm-hmm.
or you lost everything. I mean, you know what question's coming. It's a typical marketing question. If you had to start over, what would you do?
It really depends. Am I 25, or am I 51?
Right. It
If
does.
I
No, you're
Yeah,
right.
it truly depends. So let's assume that I'm 51, because I'm 51.
Okay.
My risk tolerance is far different than it was when I was 25. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that I'm not willing to go for it. It doesn't mean that I'm not willing to do it. But the first thing I would do, if I lost everything, was to be able to sit back and look at why. Why did I lose everything? What happened? What was the challenge? And what did I learn from it? You know,
Mm-hmm.
and the
Yeah.
first question is there a way to take that knowledge, that experience, those customers, the things, and be able to change slightly, to reposition, to refocus, to be able to let the phoenix rise again? And that would be the first thing that I would do, to sit there and say, is there a way to salvage where we were, or is it just beating a dead horse? If we're beating a dead horse, let's dig the hole, let's bury it and be done with it. But
move on.
And move on. But if we have to bury the horse, if we are starting again, the first thing I would be looking for is saying, what are the challenges, what are the issues, what are the problems small business are having today that I can fix in a way that I can scale it? And it's not just trying to hack or 10x or whatever. It's sitting there going, I only have a limited amount of time. I only have a limited hours of the day. The question is there ways that I can help 10 people at a time, 15 people at a time, 50 people at a time, in a way where I can take that same hour and I can sit there going, look, it would normally cost you $500 an hour to talk to me. If I can have 10 people in the room, I can charge $50 an hour, to those people and be able to still make that same $500, and I can charge them maybe $75 an hour. And that way I'm making I'm making a little bit more money because there's a little bit more work, but I can make that time more useful for me, and be able to build that out. So it's looking at, how can I utilize the strengths that I have, the value that I've built so far, the experience that I've done, to be able to help that next generation move forward? Because there's a lot of people out there that are, just starting off in business, that have never been down the deep, dark holes, that have never faced adversity, that are sitting there going, I have no idea where to go from here. I've been through those holes. I've built the ladders and dug my way out of these things, and fallen into other holes and found my way out of those.
I found other holes.
So what the businesses that I would get into, the things I would do is sit there going, how can I help other businesses avoid those pitfalls that I've created, in a way where I can help the largest number of people possible to enable them to succeed? Because I'm a big believer of, when I can create ripples in the water, they create ripples in the water, and everything grows. It's coming from an abundance viewpoint, and not say they're going, I have this knowledge and I'm going to keep it close to my chest and nobody else can have it. My attitude is, give it to everybody and let those people turn around and give it to other people, and the world will be better.
Absolutely. That is a great philosophy and a great way to put it. So really appreciate it. Going to start to wrap up a little bit here, and appreciate your time and sharing and everything that we covered today. Is there anything that you want, any comment, any thoughts you want to pass on at the end here? Plus anything that you have to offer that might benefit our listeners, that you could do now?
And I'll give you the link to it. If you go to the Your Brand Marketing website and go in the Thoughts for Leaders section, there's a whole bunch of videos that we've created on how to move beyond COVID as leadership, how to be thinking about what's next. What are the things that we should be thinking about now? What are the things that we should be thinking about to be able to thrive in the future? And I think that that's probably the best information that I can provide. On that website are free chapters of my book, of both my books, as a matter of fact, my podcast, everything is available. So if people go to yourbrandmarketing.com, it's the repository of everything. It's how people get in touch with me, and, happy to be there to help.
Okay. And I'll make sure that all those links, are in the show notes, and also in the description for anywhere else that we post the recording of the podcast. So
Perfect.
Thanks again. Really appreciate it. Thanks everybody for listening. Have a super safe and productive week, and be the very best at whatever you're doing. Until next time, it's Tad Stevens, Micro Success Secrets. Bye for now.
Thanks, Dad.